What if I told you anyone can make vlogs that look like this? I started vlogging about a year ago and I was able to turn my vlogs from this to this. And in this video, I'll be sharing all my filming secrets on how I was able to achieve that. Hello, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Terry. I like to make vlogs and share the process so you guys can do the same thing. So this is the second part of my mini-series, How to Turn Your Vlogs into a Movie, My Creative Process, where I'll be focusing on the filming aspect of things. First part is more about planning, which I think is super important. A lot of people just skip through that stuff, but it will make your filming process so much easier. If you haven't checked out the first part, make sure to click on the link here or in the description below. Also, make sure to grab the free Notion template. It will help you to kickstart your first vlog. All right, now that we're all clear, let's get into it. First thing, if you want to film a vlog, of course you need a camera. The one that I'm using right now is the Sony a6700. I'm not going to go too deep on the gears, by the way, because I already made a dedicated video earlier on. So if you want to know more about it, you can watch that video. But since then, I've got some additional gears, so I'll be mainly covering those. So three things that I really like about this camera is the in-body stabilization. I think it's just super important, especially when you're filming a vlog. You don't want to see all this shaky footage. And especially I film handheld most of the time. So it's something that I really need. The second thing is the 10-bit color. Some people might not agree, but this is something is very important to me. With that, I can shoot with S-Log3, which has the highest dynamic range, meaning that I have more rooms to play with my colors. And this is one of my secrets why my image can look so vibrant. The third thing is the price. I mean, for this camera, the price is unbeatable. It has the same sensor as the FX30, which is a bit more expensive, definitely more expensive than this one. Also, it has a bigger body and it doesn't really have the photo capability. I mean, it can still shoot photo, but this one is a hybrid camera, so it shoots better photos if you need that. The two main lenses I use is the Sony 10-10, Sony 10-18mm and the Sigma 18-50. So for the Sony 10-18 is mainly when I do the run and gun and I just point the camera to myself. It has a super wide angle, so it captures pretty much everything on what I'm showing. For the Sigma, the new lens that I picked up is more for cinematic shot. I like how much you can zoom in from 18 to 50, which is amazing, and it's not expensive at all when you compare it to other Sony lenses. Also, when you turn it down to 18, you can still kind of vlog. Your head might be a bit bigger, but I think it's still doable. So yeah, that one is definitely my favorite lens right now. Okay, moving on to the B cams. I use the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 and the Insta360 Ace Pro 2. What I like about the Pocket 3 is super tiny. It just fits in your pocket and it has a very low learning curve. It's great when I'm out with my partner and I don't want too much attention, because sometimes the mirrorless camera is a hassle to bring along. So this camera kind of solves that. And if she wants to take hold of the camera, it's pretty easy, super straightforward. I don't really need to explain to her. It's just basically a point and shoot pretty much. And also, I think one of the best things, it has the built-in gimbal, so you can get really smooth footage. Super budget friendly as well. I think the price has gone up in the US in comparison to other mirrorless camera. This is still the best budget option. I think the biggest problem is you have to be really careful with it. You need to make sure you bring your cage or whatever protection, because the gimbal is quite fragile. And this is where this camera comes in, the Ace Pro 2. It's an action camera. I pretty much don't need to worry about it being damaged because it's so durable. I've been taking this out with me on my runs and it's been amazing. I actually took that with me to a race and it was pouring down that day. So everything was wet, including the camera. But yeah, no water damage or anything at all. Also, the lens had a very wide angle, so it can capture your surroundings, which I already mentioned that I like to do in my vlogs. And the really good thing is you can flip up the screen like this, so you know where you're shooting. And they also released the Explorer bundle, which makes it very vlogging friendly. It has a cage with a handle grip and a shutter button, also a wrist wrap, where you can just hang it on your wrist with the grip and the shutter button. It feels a lot more like a traditional camera. Okay, next up is camera settings. So for my Sony camera, I shoot in 24 FPS. I turn on the variable shutter so I can shoot in 1/48 to get that natural motion blur. For the ISO, I set it at 800 in the daytime and 2500 at night. This is the base ISO for shooting in S-Log3. When shooting outdoor, I normally use auto white balance right now because the white balance is pretty good. And in a controlled environment or indoor or like talking head right now, I'm using in between from 4000K to 5600K. For the Pocket 3, I mainly shoot in auto right now, mainly because I didn't really like the ND filter that I have. There's a lot of vignetting, and if you don't turn on auto mode, you can't use the matte tele mode, which is one of my favorite feature. If I ever get a better ND filter, I might reconsider using that. But also one of the problem is it's super thin. It's very hard to put on and pull off. So that's also another issue. For the Ace Pro 2, I'm shooting in 4K 60 FPS with 1/120 shutter speed. I know in my previous video I mentioned that I use 4K 25 FPS. I did not know until I looked back at the footage. It was a bit jittery. Once I bumped that up, that issue was gone, and I can still keep the natural motion blur. Color profile, I like to shoot in iLog. Sometimes I shoot in standard color profile so I can get that clarity soon, but otherwise I will shoot in iLog with ISO at 3200 max, I think, and auto white balance. Okay, now all the camera stuff are out of the way. Let's talk about the actual filming. If you want to make your vlogs look like a movie, first you need to think like you're making a movie. Whatever shit I see, I try to think about what I'm going through and how I can use different angles and shots to present that idea, which I'm going to show you this step by step right now. Okay, let's pretend that I'm shooting a morning scene right now. What I'm going to do is probably open up the blinds. I'll get like a medium shot on the blinds and then a close-up of how I lit up the incense. So it kind of gives you a vibe of like the warmth and early morning. I was gonna do the next shot, which is going to the coffee machine and make the coffee. But I think it's just a bit too messy, so I'm gonna save it. But you get the point. By using different shots and angles, I can help the viewers to immerse in the experience. So sort of like taking them through on the journey with me. And for these kind of things, accessories usually play a big role. Let's say for this shot right here, where is sort of like an overhead shot, I use my handheld tripod, which is the PGY Tech handheld tripod. Well, I can just hook it onto the door so to achieve this kind of different perspective. Okay, let's move on to a bit more practical stuff. So the first thing is always test your mic. There are a lot of times that I just forget about turning on the mic and I have to re-record the whole thing, which, trust me, is a pain. And this is actually what happened for this video. As you can see, I'm in a different outfit because for some reason I pressed the mute button and then it stopped recording the audio. So yeah, just be careful on that. Number two, which is related to the first point, is record ambient sound. For me personally, even if I'm not talking to the camera, I like to record the ambient sound so it feels a bit more realistic to the viewers, helps them to immerse in that environment. The next one is do more than one take if you can. When I shoot, I like to do at least 3 takes unless I'm super confident, because sometimes it looks good on the screen, but when you upload it, it just doesn't look as good as you want it to be. So yeah, it's always good to have a backup option. Which takes me to the next point is review your footage if you can. Also very dependent on how much time you have. The easiest way is just to fast forward to the point, the most important point, where you can just quickly see if you got it right or not. Number 5 is be observant. Just look around your surroundings, see if there's any little things that people doesn't normally notice. It could be shadows, like the lines or reflection. Capturing things like this can make your image or your visuals a lot more interesting. Also, it can be a good way to transition your video when you edit. The next one is B-roll. Capturing some B-roll is a good way to give some visual context to your audience. For me especially, I am a visual learner, so whenever I see the product or anything that someone's describing, it helps me to understand a bit better. Also, it's a good way to keep the audience engaged. An example could be, I just went to the Harbour Bridge in Sydney, and then you can overlay your A-roll with a image of the Harbour Bridge. Next bit is more about filming with intention. So the first thing that I want to talk about is shooting a thumbnail. The times that I forgot to take a thumbnail, which made it really hard for me to find something that is usable. I just have to go through all my footage just to find some screenshot that is worth it for the thumbnail. Because we all know YouTube is about title and thumbnail, and if you can't get it right, it's really difficult for someone to click on your video. So this is why it's important to plan this ahead. Actually, I'm gonna just show you guys how I'm gonna do it. So here I was trying to take a thumbnail for my Ace Pro 2 Melbourne vlog. My idea was to have an iconic landmark with me in the middle while shooting with the camera. I also like to use different frames for my video rather than taking a photo, because I can easily do different poses in the same clip rather than taking multiple photos. So the next point I want to talk about is to group your shots. This is a bit more relevant to the intro of the vlog, since I tend to plan all my intros as much as I can. And by grouping the shots, it just makes the filming process so much smoother without having to go back and forth. The other thing is to film with edits in mind. If you can, not only it can make your editing a lot smoother, it can also sort of add a signature style to your videos. For example, like Casey Neistat, the guy who started everything, he uses a lot of drone shot in his videos to show the full landscape of the city as well as the time-lapse. That's pretty much about the filming side of things. So the next part will be focusing on editing, so stay tuned for that. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I feel like this video is a little bit messy, mainly because some of the things are already covered in the previous video, so I don't want to sort of repeat myself in here. Different bits and pieces of filming, and since filming is such a broad topic, I just want to try to pull out the things that is most relevant to beginners and probably the things that you want to know about my process. Yeah, if you made it to this far, please leave a victory emoji in the comments. I will really appreciate it. And we are very close to 10K. I just want to say thank you for everyone's support. I cannot describe my feelings right now. I just can't believe that many of you find my contents valuable. I do really appreciate every one of you watching. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.